What's going on, guys? Isaiah or /24 here, bringing you my second to last boss guide in Shadow of the Colossus. In this video, I'll be going over Colossi number 10 to number 12 on the hard mode difficulty. Once again, this is one of the free games of the month this month for PS Plus, and I'll be bringing you a bunch of different guides and tutorials for this game over the course of the next couple of weeks. We're starting out here with our 10th Colossus, and this is for the trophy Mystery in the Sand. This Colossi is called Dirge. If I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm going to have to say this is probably one of the most frightening bosses in the game, at least for me. It's absolutely terrifying. You're going to spawn up here and you're going to be utilizing your horse aggro for this fight once again. The Colossi will immediately start attacking you, and he sort of goes underneath the sand and chases you from behind. What you need to do is, while steering your horse, you need to simultaneously aim your bow, and eventually the Colossi will peek out from the sand and you need to shoot an arrow at his eye. Once you do this, he will sort of like spiral out of control, and he'll eventually crash into either a wall or a pillar. And then from there, you just need to jump onto his back and hit his weak spots. He only has 2 weak spots, and they're both on his backside. And thankfully, you only need to do this this shooting of the eye thing twice, so only 2 rotations. But as you'll see here, I managed to shoot at the eye on my first try, and then I actually went for the farther weak point first. No particular reason, I just felt like I was making good time for this rotation, so I just decided to go for the longer weak point, I guess you could say. Once you do shoot him in the eye and he crashes into the wall, he isn't really going to move around a whole lot. You do see him here moving around a little bit, but in general, the hardest part of this fight is just shooting him in the eye and making him actually crash into that wall. There is definitely a set amount of time that you do have for this. But after you do have more than enough time to take out the first weak point, and you only do have 4 minutes and 30 seconds for this fight, so that does sort of mean that you do need to do this on 2 rotations, 1 for each weak point. If you are unsuccessful, you probably will have to retry. But after you take out that first weak point, he's going to eventually then retreat into the sand. And similar to the 9th Colossus, if you watched my previous video, you can hold down the L2 button to keep your camera locked onto the Colossus. This definitely helps for this one in particular when you're shooting him. You need to shoot him with the arrow, and it's hard to kind of steer your horse and then also be aiming your bow at the same time. So second time around, same thing. Just steer your horse with the sticks and then also aim your bow with your other stick. Shoot him in the eye, and then another little cutscene will play there where he'll crash into the wall. And then from there it's very straightforward. Just jump onto his back, take out whatever whatever weak point you didn't take out the first time around, and then just like that, you will have defeated the 10th Colossus. The weak point, the hardest part I'm trying to say, is just actually getting him to do the move where he crashes into the wall by shooting his eye. But once you're able to shoot the eye out twice, it is pretty straightforward from there. And that will be our 10th Colossus and first of 3 in today's video. Moving on here to our 11th Colossus, guys. This is for the trophy The Guardian and the Pit. This Colossus is also a pretty short fight, similar to our last fight for Colossus 10. You're going to immediately spawn here, and what you're going to want to do is run towards one of these braziers. I ran towards the one on the right. You're up against sort of like a bull Colossus this time around. What he's going to do is charge at you while you're on top of this brazier, and you'll see that a flaming torch, or flaming stick, will fall off. What you need to do is quickly jump down, press your grip button to grab that flaming stick, and then run towards the other brazier, and you'll need to reignite it. You'll see here that I actually got hit by the Colossus, but it isn't really a huge deal. You don't really take that much damage. You just want to then climb up onto the other brazier, and then relight your stick, and then jump down. And as you'll see here now, this Colossus is, for some reason, is scared of fire. So once you're able to pick up the stick, and then relight it, you're just going to want to slowly walk towards it, not too fast, but also not too slowly. And then you're going to want to just sort of push it off of the edge. You see here I actually got a little bit too close, so she clawed at me. But I managed to get her close enough to the edge. What'll happen is then she'll fall off the edge. A little cutscene will play where her back armor will break, which exposes her one weak point. And then what you need to do is actually jump off the cliff and ideally land on the back of the Colossus. And then from there, it's kind of like a little one-on-one rodeo battle. While you are riding the Colossus, you're going to want to try and hold on for dear life, and then just start putting in some damage on the Colossus's weak point. What will happen is the Colossus will sometimes just run directly back to the arena where you were at the start. But what it will also maybe sometimes do is it'll start to try and shake you off. So if the Colossus starts to try and shake you off, you basically just have to hold on. But if the Colossus does sort of stay stationary, that does give you an opportunity to start doing some damage. Once you actually start, I noticed that once you actually start inflicting damage on this boss, she will sort of stay still a bit more. So the hard part is honestly just making it stay still. And the easiest way to do that is just sort of getting in a quick stab at the start. And then from there, she will still try and buck you off, but she will stay relatively more still. So you just kind of have to wrangle with her. Take your time. You do have a lot more grip for this fight, so you can definitely just kind of take your time, chip away at its health, and then from there it's a pretty straightforward fight. The hard part is honestly just staying on and sort of getting some good RNG in terms of her not moving too much. Because if you do end up running out of stamina, you then just have to kind of jump off of the boss and then go to one of the braziers again and then jump back on its back. So given the fact that you only have a very short amount of time for this boss, that can be a little RNG dependent. But as you see here, for this particular try, I managed to get all of the boss's health gone in just one stamina bar. So pretty straightforward and pretty good short fight for this 11th Colossus. Alright guys, moving on to our third and final Colossus for today's video. This is for the trophy Thunder of the Lake. And as you might suspect from that trophy title, we will be doing another water-based boss. This is the 12th Colossus, Pelagia. What you're going to want to do right at the start of this fight is take out your bow and get the attention of the Colossus. This Colossus will shoot these sort of electric projectiles at you, similar to one of the Colossuses from the previous video. But what you're going to do is wait for the electric projectiles to come towards you and then hide behind the little stone thing by holding duck. And then from there, the Colossus will do an animation, as you saw there, where it'll sort of dip down and then put its arms on the platform. And then you can use that opportunity to then jump forward off of the stone circular thing and then jump onto the head of the Colossus. There's two ways to get on the Colossus, one of which is that way you just saw, which is the much faster way, which is the way I would highly recommend. The second way is to swim around the Colossus and go up its back. But honestly, getting on the Colossus by doing that sort of head method is very straightforward, and I would highly recommend you do that for the time attack mode. From there, you're going to then take out your sword, and as you see, what I'm doing here is I'm hitting the little green stones to sort of control the direction of the Colossus. You're going to want to control the Colossus until you get it to come over here towards one of these stone sort of little temple things. You're going to do the same move where you hide behind the circular stone platform, and then the Colossus will do the same thing where it'll put its arms up on the temple to investigate, and then this will give you the opportunity to then get in a bunch of attacks on its one weak spot, which is on its belly. So it can be a little finicky to actually get the Colossus to do what you want it to do, since it's another one of those Colossuses where it kind of is dependent on RNG and on the Colossus doing a particular set of animations. But in terms of actually doing damage on the weak point of the Colossus, it's very straightforward. It's just on its belly, so once that belly weak point is exposed, it's a super simple just jump on and then get as many attacks in as you can. You don't have a particularly long amount of time, so as you'll see here, what I'm doing is swimming back and just repeating the process a second time around. You can actually do this on 2 rotations, but given that you have 9 minutes and 30 seconds, I just did this on 3 rotations, so you have plenty of extra time. Even with 3 rotations, I only did this in like 6.5 minutes, so you have tons of spare time. Yeah, so basically what you're going to do then is just what I at least did was I swam back to the starting platform and I just repeated the process over a second time. What will actually happen is once you get Pelagia to around 40% health, she'll actually destroy whatever stone temple you're on, and then you'll have to actually the third time around then control Pelagia into going towards the other stone temple. So you can't just repeat the same stone temple for all 3 rotations. But in terms of actually just getting on its head, that's definitely the more easier of the 2 jumps. The more difficult, and I would say the most challenging part about this boss is just getting it going where you want it to. As you'll see, it moves its head around a lot and it'll try and buck you off. So that can make hitting the green rocks a lot more difficult. But like I said, you have 9 minutes and 30 seconds. It's a very long fight. So you're going to want to just kind of play it conservatively, stay patient with it, don't get too greedy on your attacks, and then the boss is pretty straightforward. You will have to sometimes, as you'll see here for my second rotation, I'm using my bow and arrow to getting its attention. Sometimes it won't do the animations because it doesn't know where you are. So you do kind of have to sometimes use your bow or use your whistle to get its attention. But same thing second time around, just bait it into doing its leg up on the temple animation by hiding behind the cover once again. And then you can jump onto its belly and get in a couple more attacks. And then, like I said, the third time around, you'll have to actually then use the other temple, as you'll see here coming up. Once I hit the boss down to about 25% health, it's going to get a little upset and destroy that stone temple we used for our first 2 rotations. But then it's very similar. All you have to do for the third rotation is just use the other stone temple. And then from there, it's a pretty straightforward fight. And yeah, as you'll see here, what will happen also, maybe something important to mention, is that it will shoot you with its electric projectiles, even while you're swimming. But you can just hide under the water when that happens. You can listen to sort of the sound cue for that. And as long as you're hiding under the water by holding R2, you won't take any damage, so nothing really to worry about there. But then you can just use the stone temple that was just destroyed to do our third and final rotation. Same thing, just get its attention with your bow and arrow, hide behind the cover by ducking. It'll eventually, after a certain period of time, jump up there to investigate. And then you can do a big jump onto its head, jump onto the grassy part of the back of its head, and then same thing as the first 2 times around, just steer it by hitting on the green rocks. This one obviously a bit more different, as you have to kind of steer it a bit more to more of a farther away spot. But either way, it's pretty straightforward, pretty similar to the first 2 times. And although this is one of the lengthier fights in the game, I would say, at least compared to some of the next Colossi we'll be doing in our 5th and final boss's guide, definitely a lot more easier relative to those other ones. And yeah, as you'll see here, just chipping away on those green stones. It is a little bit finicky, as I said, in the sense that not only is she going to be trying to throw you off of her head, you can't have things like that happen right there where she'll be moving around a lot and you might almost fall off. But just play it slow, play it patient, and it's just a matter of not getting too greedy and just moving the Colossus where you need it to go. And like I said earlier, guys, I'll be having a bunch of different guides and tutorials coming out in this game. Starting out here, obviously, with our 16 boss guides, but I plan to do maybe some more just individual trophies coming out over the next couple of weeks, depending on when I have some time. Because there's actually a bunch of trophies in this game that I think really suit a solid video tutorial, even though the game's been out for a couple of years. But aside from that, same thing, third time around, still tons of time to spare. Jump onto that belly on the other temple and then take out the 12th Colossus. That's going to do it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you guys soon.